But it's the same stuff I tell my kids. I want this stuff to be boring to you. Not necessarily that you're not having fun, but I don't want there to be excitement and all kinds of creativity with every little decision you have to make. No, I want it to be boring because we do it the same way every time. So you don't have to think about that stuff. It's just done the same way every time. Now you can put your energy into other things. Tips when looking for places. I mean, I don't really have many tips, right? Like I just really, to me, it's when I say I don't have a lot of tips, I try to eliminate the thought process, as much thought from that process as possible. So that's why I'm not giving you a whole lot of tips other than formula drives everything as long as it's not in a war zone.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of said something.
I just keep it that simple because you can overthink the process and then you're spending a lot more time thinking about stuff you don't need to.
And that's what I felt like I was doing a little bit in the back of my head. I was ignoring it, but it was still in the back of my head, like thinking, well, what's near it? What's around it? Are people going to come to, and you kind of explained a little bit before that to somebody else about even if they have to drive 20 or 30 minutes, it's still Airbnb is going to kind of organize the guests that you need in there.
Because there's two pieces that, again, when we start talking about traditional real estate, one thing, I did a video on this some time ago where it said it was about location, right? But that means something a lot different with traditional than it does with Airbnb. Because, if you're doing traditional real estate, you hear that all the time. It's about location. If you take that traditional way of thinking and you make that your Airbnb strategy, that's why a lot of people fail with Airbnb when they get going and they come in with either a lot of experience or very little experience. A lot of experience in traditional real estate or very little experience, and then they just try and take that template and put it over Airbnb. Why? Because location from an Airbnb perspective, you're not really thinking necessarily about the money, you're thinking about location. And you're going, well, man, now you're starting to get your feelings involved too, because you're like, man, that's a great location, it's beautiful. Maybe it should be able to get this, it should be able to get that. It should. Like, there's no guessing here. Like, we know what it gets. We could see that clearly. So formula, we're looking at formula. And if it fits one of those locations that you like if we look at formula and then we know what we could pay in rents based on formula, then as I'm looking at everything within that price range, if something pops up that's in one of those areas that you're looking for, great, wonderful. However, it's, and by the way, here's one of those places. The other 50 places or 25 places or 20 places or 15 places that you're looking at this week or that you're sending out to today or tomorrow or this or the rest of the week, those places may not be in that area. And so for me, it doesn't matter, right? It's about what's gonna fit formula to provide me the cash flow to get me to my end result, which is financial independence and freedom. 2 to 3 times rent. I get enough of those, then I got a ton of cash flow coming in. I automate, right? And now I got my time. So I got the cash flow, I got the time. As long as it's not in the war zone, I'm good to go. I just keep adding to that.
No, that makes sense.
For those of y'all that's new to this process, it's really as simple as that. It has to stay as simple as that. And if you're new also to this session and some of the things that I've obviously you've heard the modules and that, but it's the same stuff I tell my kids. I want this stuff to be boring to you. Not necessarily that you're not having fun, but I don't want there to be excitement and all kinds of creativity with every little decision you have to make. No, I want it to be boring because we do it the same way every time. So you don't have to think about that stuff. It's just done the same way every time. Now you can put your energy into other things. You don't need a whole lot of brain power to operate this thing. I give the example all the time. Who's the godfather of that? McDonald's, right? McDonald's, they created that template where they had a system, and then Ray Kroc, he got this thing from the McDonald brothers. He had a good product. They had a great product. They didn't really understand how to systematize it. He came in, he systematized that thing so that it could do the same thing every time, but not just do the same thing every time, but it becomes scalable and it's simple enough that a teenager can do it.